Hello, juniors. This is Mr. Ezekiel coming at you from beautiful Kalamazoo, Michigan, here to answer your mailbag questions as they relate to CAS. Uh, Obviously, these aren't going to be all of the questions that you're going to have over the course of your junior and senior year as you deal with CAS, but it's definitely a good start. I got some good submissions, frequently asked questions that hopefully we can knock out in this video, and you won't have to worry about so much in the future. But of course, if you have any questions on these topics or any others throughout the course of the year, please just shoot me an email. Come and see me after school in room 801, and those are some ways that you can get in touch with me so I can help you out with that. So let's get into the digital mailbag. Question number 1, how can you divide up the hours between the CAS categories? Do we have to have equal hours of each type? Great question. The answer is no, you do not need to have equal hours of each type. You can split them up and have them be a little bit unbalanced. There is a requirement that you need to have 40 hours minimum per category, and you need to have 150 total hours. So what that means is your most unbalanced portfolio would look like 40 hours of one of creativity, action, and service, 40 hours of another, and then 70 hours of the last one. So up to 10 hours off of each of the other two and have those hours added into your other category. For people who really are comfortable in one area more than another, especially if you do something like a team sport or if you play in a band outside of school or something, those are ways that you can load up in that one category that you really have a lot of projects in while still getting enough in your other categories to show that you've got a nice, well-rounded, well-developed CAS portfolio. Question number 2, does it have to be an organized event to get hours? For example, can a pickup game of basketball or a sport count? This one does get to be a little trickier. The issue with having kind of these surprise things that just come up. What I want to say is yes, you can do those types of activities even if they aren't pre-approved. The reason that we have the pre-approval process, why I want you to go to your CAS advisor or come to me and get us to sign off on your CAS form before you do your activity is not so that we can, place an undue burden on you, but we don't want you to waste your time. It would be really unfortunate if you went and did some project over the weekend that, you put 10 hours into, and then you bring the form back to me, and then I got to break the news to you that, sorry, I don't think that counts as CAS. So that's why we encourage you to get your CAS hours pre-approved, just so that we can sort of head you off of the pass if it looks like your activity is not necessarily going to count. But that doesn't mean that if an opportunity pops up and you see seems like it is obviously going to fit into one or more of those CAS categories, go and do it, certainly. I do ask that you don't go and see your passport teacher to sign off on those types of things. Bring it to me for what I like to call post pre-approval, and I'll take care of those items so that if someone does have to break the news to a student that an activity that they've already put the hours in is not going to count as CAS, it's me. They should hear it from your CAS coordinator. I don't want to put that burden on your passport teacher, but that does happen pretty rarely. Pardon. For like a pickup basketball game and that sort of thing, the tough part about that is you need to be able to say it is in some way expanding your horizons or pushing the boundaries of what you already do. If you play basketball frequently already, just doing a pickup game probably isn't going to do a whole lot for you in terms of CAS. It would be a tough defense that you would have to mount in your written portion to say that this in some way really pushed beyond what you already do. If you are prepared to make that defense, that's fine. If you want to find a way to incorporate it incorporate other elements of CAS, if you want to, run drills and that sort of thing, that's one thing. But I would say probably your average pickup game of basketball probably is not going to count for CAS. Question number 3, is there a limit on how many CAS hours can come from enrichments? Can I do enrichments for CAS hours? Yes, yes, yes. Not yes to the limit of hours from those types of enrichments, but yes, enrichments can count as CAS. You guys have 1,001 requirements on your time, and we recognize that, and I want to encourage you to double dip. If you are doing an enrichment that, if you're doing a mural enrichment, count it for creativity. If you are doing backpacking enrichment, count it as, count that as part of your activity or action portion. Absolutely, those can count. There is not a limit to your number of hours that you can get credit for that come from enrichments. Another question similar that I get pretty frequently and that I want to address right away is the question of whether your job shadowing, your career shadowing, your career mentorship enrichment will count for CAS. And 9 times out of 10, maybe 98 times out of 100, it will not count for CAS, I'm afraid. The reason being is that rarely in the career that you are shadowing are they going to give you enough free rein to do anything that might count for creativity. Typically, you're not getting your heart rate up enough or using teamwork, or maybe you're using teamwork, but typically doesn't fall under that activity category. And in terms of service, if there may be some opportunities for service in there potentially, like I said, really we want to look at it on a case-by-case basis, but there are not a ton of service opportunities either, at least not ones that really kind of get your hands dirty and get you involved in service the way we're kind of looking for. A lot of times people want to say, well, I was at the hospital and I wasn't getting paid. I was volunteering my time, sort of. But a lot of times, you're filing papers and that sort of thing, and it's not really a direct service opportunity. Another thing I wanted to talk about with regards to direct service opportunities, people often ask about fundraising and whether that should count for CAS. And the answer is yes, but we try to limit fundraising to 10 of your hours, because we want you to be out there doing real world stuff where you're interacting with people and where you're kind of getting your hands dirty, so to speak, as opposed to just collecting money and kind of throwing money at various problems. It's all very nice and it's a good thing, certainly, and that's why it can count for a chunk of your hours, but we do want to see it limited to 10 of your hours associated with fundraising, and the rest more of a hands-on service activity. All right, a couple more questions here that came in. If students are currently playing a sport, can they count that as their action? If so, is there a limit for how many actions they can count from it? I sort of talked about this during the course of the lecture. Really, the best way to go forward with a sport is to make sure that you are in some way going beyond what you have done in the sport up to that point, whether that is working on developing new skills, playing a different role, like being a captain or playing a different position. Those are the types of things that we're looking for with those team sports to sort of develop. For students who are doing things like martial arts, advancing to more technical, higher levels of expertise, that sort of thing certainly can show that you are developing in that area. We just want you to be able to, in your reflections, talk about how you are developing and improving. And a really good way to do that is through goal setting. And actually, I'm gonna put a pin in that because I'm gonna talk about it with regards to this next question. The question is, can students do solo activities like running, weightlifting, weight training to earn action hours, or in creativity that might look like writing stories or a collection of stories or poems, that sort of thing? The answer is yes. You can do those solo types of activities. The challenge there is in the supervisor. If no one is really directly supervising you and your parents can't sign off on it directly, uh, as kind of part of our policy, that leaves you in a bit of a bind. But here's my recommendation for those solo type activities, and I'm going to use running as an example. If you are doing kind of a solo running project, number one is start out with some goal setting. Talk about what you want to be able to do, whether it is running, a certain distance without stopping, or running a mile in a particular amount of time, or participating in a race. Set those goals so that you have something to work for. The issue when you are just solo is sometimes there's not much to write about because you're just saying, oh, I went out and I jogged for 30 minutes today, that sort of thing. But if you're working towards a goal, then you can sort of say, I felt more comfortable with it. This is something that I'm really improving on. Or today I just really felt bad. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Those sort of comments and that sort of reflection is going to be much more valuable to you overall for those types of solo projects. In terms of who should sign off on them as your supervisor, my recommendation is to go see a teacher who falls into that area of expertise. So if you're running or weightlifting, see a PE teacher. If you are writing, see a lit teacher. If you are working on art projects, see an art teacher. Though they can sort of take a look at your log, which you should keep and have it be very detailed, so that it can be really clear to the teacher who's taking a look at it that says, hey, they do seem to have done these things. So if you're running, that might mean keeping track of what the weather was like that day. What was your time? What was your distance? What was your route? Being as specific as possible makes it so that your supervisor who's signing off on it can look at it and say, this seems legit. I'm comfortable putting my name on it, or I'm not so sure about this. And I, don't want to be taken for a ride. We don't expect that that's going to happen, but we want to make sure that we are prepared in case there is the potential for some malpractice here. Just something to sort of keep our eyes out for. Let's see. Last one here. How much variety do we need in our CAS portfolios? That's a really good question. If you're doing one activity, like you're participating in a team sport that you think is just going to take up a huge chunk of your action, for instance, is that all you need to do? What I ask is I'd love to see at least 2 activities in every category. Even if that means 49 hours of team sports and 1 hour of some other action activity. I want to see that that variety is going to help you put together kind of a more robust portfolio, and it's going to force you to step at least a little bit out of your comfort zone and get away from that one activity that you're just recording hours and hours and hours on. All right, and one final key question is, what does this whole process look like in total? So I'm just going to take you through kind of the whole process from start to finish. You get a CAS form. They are available in room 801 in the main office, and you can download and print your own at wihi.org/CAS. You'll also be able to get that form from the CAS Google Classroom, which will be operational when we get back from Labor Day weekend. And start with that. Fill out your pre-approval section where you talk about how many hours you think it'll be, what categories you think it'll fall under, what service, what social issue your service project is dealing with, that sort of thing. Get that pre-approved by either myself or your passport teacher who serves as your CAS advisor. The next step is to do the activity. Make sure you are taking careful records in your activity log. If it's going to meet more than 10 times, I recommend putting together your own spreadsheet to keep track of your hours, just because the form that I've included only has 10 slots, and if you're going to do more than that, obviously you're going to need more room. Once the activity is, while you are at your activity or participating in your activity, at some point have your supervisor sign off on it. If for whatever reason you get into a situation where your supervisor is unable to sign it, or they're across the country, or whatever the case may be, getting an email is sufficient too. Just send an email to them and say, hey, can you confirm that I actually did what I said I did? You can print that off and staple it to your form If that is not possible, come and see me. We'll figure something out. But those are the best two methods. Then you need to write your reflection. Guidelines for reflection writing are on the back side of your CAS form. Once the reflection is complete, you will submit to your CAS advisor or myself for a verification signature. And you'll also sign off on it yourself, saying that what you've included is true and accurate, and you risk the loss of your IB diploma if it turns out that that information is inaccurate. One item that I should have included before you go to sign in to your before you go to get final verification on your project, I'm going to ask you to please, for now, you can go to Edmodo, create an Edmodo account, and enter the class code JAXXWM. That will connect you to the Edmodo page and let you access the Google form. However, if you can wait until after Labor Day weekend, you'll just be able to go to the Google Class page and fill out the form from there. But the reason that we want you to fill out the digital form and why that's so important is, a lot of CAS programs are part of IB programs that are kind of a track at a high school where most students are just going on the regular track. Maybe 30 kids are opting into the IB diploma. We have a full class of juniors and seniors that we're tracking at any given time, to the tune of between 250 and 300 students. So in order for us to be able to ensure that we have accurate records for everyone, we have to have that digital record completed. So that's why no one should be giving final verification on your form without asking, have you completed the Google form and gotten that information stored digitally. If for any reason you want to check in on your hours or see what you've got so far, just come and see me or send me an email, and I can check on the spreadsheet and get that sorted out for you. But yeah, it's really important for us to have that digital record. It's going to help us give you updates on what you've done so far, so you can double check and make sure that everything is right, and it's going to make it much easier for us to be able to submit your information to the IB in the spring. So you have up until around the middle of February to get your work complete, and I usually see a crush of seniors around that time, and that's fine. You don't want to let it drag beyond that, because that's when I start cold calling people and asking, hey, what are you doing right now? Why isn't it CAS? Here's some CAS activities you could do. So keep yourself on the right side of things. Actually, my seniors, this current class of seniors right now, I think I have more students than ever before who are just done with CAS, don't have to worry about it. So put yourself in that position potentially if you can. That's all the time of yours that I'm going to take up for today. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions or concerns, send me an email, lezekiel@wihi.org. I'd be happy to get back to you. You can also check in with me. I'm in room 801 after school on B days. So if you have those questions, please get in touch with me. Otherwise, good luck with your CAS stuff. I hope as we've gone through this, you've recognized that a lot of what you're doing already is going to count for CAS. You just got to keep track of it and reflect on it. All right? Thanks very much. Have a great rest of your day.